Every Harley tells a story, but only a handful of engines earn the title of unbreakable. From the gritty classics to today's powerhouse machines, this list uncovers the toughest of the tough. Watch until the end, because missing the top pick could mean missing the ultimate Harley secret. Number 10. Harley-Davidson Evolution. Among the engines that built the backbone of modern cruising, the Evolution stands out as the motor that carried Harley through some of its toughest years. Riders who know its history often call it the blockhead, and for good reason. This was the machine that married timeless sound with reliability in a way no other had done before. Born to steady Harley's reputation, the Evolution displaces 1,340 cubic centimeters and typically makes about 55 to 60 horsepower with around 65 to 70 pound-feet of torque, depending on year and tune. Aluminum heads and an improved oiling system kept it running cooler and lasting longer than its predecessors. One longtime rider recalled buying his first bike with the Evolution engine in the late 1980s, then riding coast to coast without a single breakdown. He said the motor never asked for much beyond oil changes, and its steady torque made every mile feel like freedom on demand. The genius of the Evolution was not in chasing record-breaking numbers, but in making sure the motorcycle stayed on the road instead of sitting on a lift. Engineers crafted aluminum heads to keep heat under control, an improved oil system to keep leaks at bay, and a simple pushrod design that made home-wrenching possible. The sound it produced, that low and steady potato-potato rhythm, became the very heartbeat of the brand during the 1980s and 90s. Riders took it across states, across decades, and many of those same motors are still firing up today without complaint. For many in the community, it represents the perfect balance between classic design and modern dependability. Part of its legend comes from the way it powered bikes that became cultural symbols. Softails carried it with style, Dynas gave it attitude, and the Fat Boy immortalized it on the silver screen in Terminator 2. Whether you were a young man buying your first cruiser or an old hand looking for something reliable, the Evolution gave you confidence every time you turned the key. It is no surprise that custom builders still chase these engines down, knowing they provide a rock-solid foundation for a lifetime of rides. As we roll forward, the next entry on this list proves that Harley's willingness to innovate often pays off in the long run. Number 9. Harley-Davidson Twin Cam 88. Every generation of riders has an engine they call their own, and for those who came of age around the turn of the millennium, the Twin Cam 88 was that motor. It was not the first new big twin in decades. It followed the Evolution of 1984, delivering stronger cases, improved oiling, smoother torque, and highway confidence. Forged for riders chasing open horizons, the Twin Cam 88 displaced 1,450 cubic centimeters, producing roughly 60 to 65 horsepower with about 80 to 84 pound-feet of torque. Dual camshafts and an improved external oil pump delivered stronger performance and better lubrication compared to the Evolution. One proud owner recalls logging thousands of miles across deserts and mountains, saying the motor never once left him stranded. For him, the Twin Cam 88 wasn't about flash, it was about dependable torque and the confidence that every twist of the throttle brought steady, enduring power. What set the Twin Cam 88 apart was the way it modernized the experience without losing the soul. Dual camshafts worked quietly to keep the valve train reliable. An improved external oil pump kept temperatures stable, and the unique bathtub-shaped combustion chamber delivered efficiency while still holding on to that unmistakable exhaust beat. Owners who piled on highway miles found themselves rewarded with a smoother ride and an engine that asked for little more than regular oil changes and occasional attention to cam chain tensioners. This was the kind of motor that could eat up cross-country trips with ease and then carry its rider back home without breaking a sweat. Part of the appeal of the Twin Cam 88 was the sheer variety of bikes it powered. Road Kings and electric glides carried touring riders across the continent, while Dynas and Softails gave everyday riders a perfect balance of style and strength. It was the engine that bridged the gap between the simplicity of the Evolution and the high output of the later Twin Cam 96. For many, it became the trusted companion for tens of thousands of miles, proving its worth on highways, back roads, and long weekends away. Moving forward in this countdown, the next engine shows how Harley took a bold leap into an entirely new design philosophy, embracing innovation that many never expected to see from Milwaukee. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which Harley engine has carried you longest. Number 8. Harley-Davidson Ironhead Sportster. Among the machines that gave Harley its reputation for toughness, the Ironhead carved a legacy that still inspires riders decades later. This was not a motor built for polish or refinement, but for raw grit and unshakable character. Carved out of the spirit of the late 1950s, the Ironhead arrived in two sizes: an 883 cubic centimeter version with about 42 horsepower and an 1100 cubic centimeter version producing around 57 horsepower and 48 pound-feet of torque. Early models relied on drum brakes before discs became standard later in production. One young rider from that era recalled scraping together enough cash to buy his first Ironhead, then blasting down Route 66. He swore the motor's raw pull and defiant sound gave him a sense of freedom no car ever could, a memory he carried for life. The Ironhead was the kind of motor that never asked for permission. It came with pushrod overhead valves, a 4-speed gearbox, and an attitude that made it the first choice for riders looking to prove something on the street. It could be rough around the edges, especially with electrics that sometimes tested patience, but the core engine itself was a tank. Many owners still ride original examples that have crossed more than 100,000 miles, testament to the strength of its simple design. The Ironhead was also quick for its time, with the lighter 883 pushing speeds near 90 miles per hour and the larger 1100 climbing even higher. Riders embraced it as a budget-friendly way to get Harley performance without stepping into the bigger touring line. What made the Ironhead unforgettable was how it fueled entire subcultures. From stripped-down competition machines to garage-built customs, this engine became the backbone of a generation who saw motorcycles as freedom on two wheels. It was the bike of choice for young men chasing speed after the war years, and it became a symbol of independence across the 1960s and 70s. Even today, restorers and builders keep the Ironhead alive, knowing that its raw feel can never truly be replaced by modern refinement. With such grit in its veins, the Ironhead holds a special place in Harley's lineage. Looking ahead, the next chapter in this countdown takes us further back in time to an engine that reshaped the very identity of the American motorcycle. Don't just honor Harley's strongest motors. Ride them right with quality gear and essentials that outlive the trends. Link is in the description. Number 7. Harley-Davidson Knucklehead. Long before modern electronics and computer tuning, there was a motor that transformed motorcycles into symbols of strength and freedom. That motor was the Knucklehead, and it marked the beginning of a new era in design and performance. Forged in the grit of 1936, the Knucklehead first appeared as a 1,000 cubic centimeter motor producing about 40 horsepower, later growing to 1,200 cubic centimeters with around 45 horsepower and 45 pound-feet of torque. Mechanical drum brakes were paired with it in those early years, reflecting the technology of the time. One small-town mechanic recalled saving every spare dime just to own a Knucklehead. The day he finally fired it up and roared down Main Street, he said the sound and pull of that motor made him feel like he was holding the future in his hands. The Knucklehead was the first production engine from Milwaukee to feature overhead valves, and that single innovation changed the company's trajectory forever. It offered stronger airflow, more efficient combustion, and greater top-end power than the Flathead designs it replaced. Distinctive valve covers shaped like clenched fists gave the engine its nickname, and those covers became an instant visual signature recognized across the motorcycle world. Beyond appearances, the Knucklehead brought pressurized oiling to riders, which dramatically extended longevity at a time when breakdowns were common. It was this leap in reliability that allowed riders to push farther and faster than ever before. What elevated the Knucklehead from machine to legend was its ability to inspire confidence in a new generation of riders. Early adopters took it to the racetrack, where it set records at Daytona Beach, proving that American engineering could rival anything from overseas. On the streets, it became the motor that defined a culture of rebellion and independence, giving rise to stories that still echo today in custom garages and riding clubs. Collectors now treat surviving knuckleheads as rolling art, but the truth is that many continue to run, maintained by passionate hands that refuse to let history fade. Its sound, its shape, and its spirit remain deeply tied to Harley's identity. As this countdown moves forward, the next entry reveals how Harley followed up on this breakthrough with another engine that kept momentum alive and set the stage for post-war dominance. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Panhead. In the years following the turmoil of the Second World War, riders wanted a machine that could carry them across the growing highways of America with confidence and comfort. Harley answered that call with the Panhead, a motor that took everything learned from the Knucklehead and pushed it into a new age of reliability. Born into the post-war boom of 1948, the Panhead carried a 1,200 cubic centimeter engine that typically produced about 55 to 60 horsepower and roughly 60 pound-feet of torque. In period use, it was paired with mechanical drum brakes at both ends, a straightforward setup suited to the roads and technology of the time. One young soldier home from duty in 1949 scraped together enough paychecks to buy his first Panhead, then crossed 3 states without a hiccup. He said the motor's steady pull felt like a promise, reliable, unhurried strength that turned every long stretch of asphalt into freedom. What gave the Panhead its name were the distinctive rocker covers that looked like upside-down cooking pans. But what gave it its reputation was the leap in engineering it represented. Aluminum heads replaced cast iron, shedding heat more effectively and cutting down on weight. Hydraulic valve lifters drastically reduced the need for constant adjustment, making long rides far less of a chore. Together, these updates meant riders could put thousands of miles on the odometer without spending every weekend in the garage. It was an engine built for the open road, and it answered the post-war hunger for freedom perfectly. Beyond its technical merits, the Panhead became the heart of some of Harley's most beloved motorcycles. The Hydra-Glide brought telescopic front forks in 1949, smoothing out rough roads. The Duo-Glide added rear suspension in 1958, making distance riding easier than ever. And in 1965, the Electra-Glide became the first Harley with electric start, a feature that changed convenience forever. Through each of these milestones, the Panhead proved itself to be more than just a motor. It was the foundation of Harley's touring dominance. Riders remember it as the engine that carried them farther than they thought possible, with less fuss and more enjoyment. As we continue through this countdown, the next chapter highlights a power plant that carried the rebellious image of the 60s and 70s. An engine whose name still stirs strong emotions among riders and builders alike. Before we break into the final 5, make sure you subscribe and join our community of riders so you never miss the Harley stories and engines that stand the test of time. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Shovelhead. As the 1960s rolled in, the motorcycle world was changing fast, and Harley responded with an engine that carried the spirit of rebellion as much as it did riders. That motor was the Shovelhead, a design that earned its name from rocker covers shaped like coal shovels. Born in the rebellious spirit of 1966, the Shovelhead launched with a 1,200 cubic centimeter engine producing about 60 horsepower, later expanded to 1,340 cubic centimeters with nearly 70 horsepower and close to 80 pound-feet of torque. Early models were paired with drum brakes, later upgraded to discs as performance demands grew. One California rider remembered chasing sunsets on Highway 1 with his Shovelhead, the motor pulling strong through every curve. He said the engine's raw torque and unmistakable sound gave him the sense that every mile was his own declaration of freedom. The Shovelhead built its reputation on power and presence. Compared to the Panhead it replaced, this motor brought stronger top-end performance, more aggressive throttle response, and the kind of sound that instantly captured attention on any street corner. Though it was known to need attentive maintenance, especially with oil circulation and valve guides, those who kept it serviced found it could cover impressive mileage. For custom builders of the 60s and 70s, the Shovelhead became the platform of choice, powering choppers and cruisers that defined the outlaw image of the era. Its combination of rugged torque and undeniable attitude meant it stood out in every crowd, whether parked outside a diner or roaring down the highway. What keeps the Shovelhead alive in memory today is not only the iron it was built from, but the culture it fueled. Motorcycle clubs of the time embraced it, television and film immortalized it, and owners discovered that few engines embodied raw American freedom quite like it. Even now, enthusiasts rebuild and restore these motors, seeing them as both a challenge and a reward, a way of keeping a living piece of history on the road. The Shovelhead's mix of brawn and boldness turned it into a legend of its own. As this countdown continues, the next chapter takes us back even further, to a motor that proved simple engineering could be nearly indestructible. Number 4. Harley-Davidson Flathead. When the Great Depression tested every American company, Harley relied on an engine so simple and so rugged that it kept the brand alive through some of its darkest years. That engine was the Flathead, a side valve design that earned its name from its broad, flat cylinder heads. Born in the shadow of the Great Depression, the Flathead appeared in 1929 with two choices: a 737 cubic centimeter motor producing about 22 horsepower, or a 1212 cubic centimeter version delivering around 30 horsepower, both offering roughly 55 pound-feet of torque. Early models were paired with simple drum brakes, front and rear, reflecting the straightforward technology of the time. One factory worker recalled riding his Flathead through wind and dust on daily commutes, marveling that the motor always started and pulled strong. He said it became more than transportation. It was his reliable partner during years when little else could be counted on. What made the Flathead stand apart was its sheer reliability. With low compression ratios and a slow revving nature, it asked little of riders while delivering steady performance mile after mile. The simplicity of the side valve design meant fewer parts to fail and easier fixes when something did go wrong, making it a favorite of both civilians and the United States Army. During the Second World War, thousands of Flathead-powered motorcycles like the WLA carried troops across Europe and the Pacific, earning a reputation for toughness under the harshest conditions imaginable. For returning soldiers, owning one of these bikes was more than transportation. It was a reminder of survival and freedom. Culturally, the Flathead occupies a special place in Harley's history. It became the gateway for countless riders who discovered the joy of motorcycling during the 30s and 40s, and its steady growl was often the soundtrack of small towns and backroads across America. Even decades later, restorers and collectors celebrate the Flathead not for blazing speed, but for the way it simply refuses to quit. It is the kind of motor that proves durability can be more impressive than raw power. As we continue down this list, the next entry highlights a leap forward in Harley engineering, one that smoothed out performance while keeping the company's rebellious spirit alive. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Twin Cam 96. By the mid-2000s, riders were demanding smoother power, stronger performance, and engines that could carry them across the country without compromise. The answer came in the form of the Twin Cam 96, a motor that quickly earned its place among Harley's most trusted designs. Built to answer riders' demand for strength and smoothness, the Twin Cam 96 arrived in 2007 with 1,584 cubic centimeters, producing about 68 horsepower and 92 pound-feet of torque. It introduced electronic fuel injection, a 6-speed transmission, and a redesigned internal oil pump for better lubrication and cooler running. One proud touring rider recalled climbing the Rockies with his Twin Cam 96, saying the motor never hesitated on steep grades. For him, its steady torque and reliability turned long mountain passes into effortless stretches of open road, proving the engine was built for the long haul. What set the Twin Cam 96 apart was the way it refined the raw strength of the earlier Twin Cam 88. It introduced electronic sequential port fuel injection, which delivered smoother throttle response and greater fuel efficiency. A 6-speed transmission was paired with the motor, allowing relaxed cruising at highway speeds while still putting out plenty of torque for passing power. Riders also appreciated the stronger crankshaft and the redesigned internal oil pump, which reduced wear and improved lubrication under heavy loads. All of these changes combined to create an engine that felt both powerful and dependable, a combination riders had been asking for. The Twin Cam 96 found its home in touring machines, Softail models, and the Dyna line, proving versatile across Harley's lineup. Long-distance riders embraced it for its ability to handle cross-country trips with ease, while everyday riders valued its low maintenance demands and balanced feel. Many owners put well over 100,000 miles on their motors, showing just how reliable this platform could be when cared for properly. It carried the unmistakable sound of a Harley while delivering the modern refinements that kept the brand competitive in a changing market. As we continue with this countdown, the next chapter brings us into the modern age, where Harley pushed displacement and torque to new heights in pursuit of ultimate touring performance. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Milwaukee-Eight 117. In the modern era of motorcycling, few engines embody the union of raw American torque and refined touring comfort like the Milwaukee-Eight 117. This motor represents the top end of Harley's factory big twin lineup, built for riders who want uncompromising performance paired with long-distance reliability. Built as the pinnacle of modern Harley muscle, the Milwaukee-Eight 117 displaces 1,923 cubic centimeters, producing about 105 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. With 4 valves per cylinder, a single camshaft, and precision oil cooling, it delivers both raw thrust and refined longevity. Riders know it not only from premium custom vehicle operations models, but also from performance-focused machines like the Lowrider ST and the Breakout 117. One Texas rider recalled scorching summer miles across the plains, praising the motor's relentless torque and cool running as proof it was built to endure. The Milwaukee-Eight 117 is all about effortless strength. 4 valves per cylinder improve airflow, while single cam architecture simplifies maintenance and reduces noise. Precision oil and liquid cooling in key areas keep temperatures in check, ensuring consistent power even under heavy touring loads. Internal counterbalancers reduce vibration, letting the rider feel the traditional throb of a V-twin without sacrificing comfort on long rides. For many riders, this engine strikes the perfect balance. The visceral sensation of Harley's heritage combined with modern engineering that makes endless highway miles not only possible, but enjoyable. Part of the mystique surrounding the Milwaukee-Eight 117 is its exclusivity. Found primarily in custom vehicle operations models such as the Street Glide, the Road Glide, and the Limited, it represents the pinnacle of Harley's craftsmanship. These motorcycles are not only performance machines but also rolling statements of pride, complete with hand-finished details and technology aimed at enhancing the ride. Owners describe the experience as commanding the road with authority, knowing they ride one of the most powerful production Harleys ever built. It is an engine designed for those who demand the very best and are willing to invest in it. As we close in on the top spot of this countdown, the next engine showcases Harley's boldest leap into the future, bringing high technology and performance together in a way no one could have predicted. Number 1. Harley-Davidson Revolution Max. At the very top of this list sits a motor that redefined what riders thought possible from Milwaukee. The Revolution Max is a liquid-cooled V-twin that signaled Harley's commitment to future performance without abandoning durability. Breaking away from tradition, the Revolution Max comes in 2 versions. The 975 cubic centimeter motor, producing about 90 horsepower, and the 1250 cubic centimeter motor delivering around 150 horsepower. Torque ranges from 70 to 94 pound-feet, with dual overhead camshafts, variable valve timing, and liquid cooling, ensuring modern performance. One rider recalled carving through canyon switchbacks on a Revolution Max-powered bike, stunned at how it delivered Harley torque with a sport bike's sharp response. He said it felt like stepping into a new era, still pure Harley at heart, but transformed for riders who demand agility and strength together. What makes the Revolution Max remarkable is not only its output, but its engineering. With dual overhead camshafts, 4 valves per cylinder, variable valve timing, and hydraulic lash adjusters, it delivers a wide power band while cutting down on maintenance. A counterbalancer system smooths vibration, making the motor refined without losing the deep pulse riders expect from a V-twin. Water cooling allows it to hold steady in hot conditions, while the 6-speed gearbox gives riders flexibility on both city streets and open highways. This is a machine built for high performance, but also engineered for longevity in the hands of everyday owners. The Revolution Max powers motorcycles like the Pan America Adventure model and the Sportster S, proving its adaptability across very different styles of riding. Riders have praised it for its explosive acceleration, its ability to cruise comfortably at high speeds, and its surprisingly light feel compared to older Harley motors. On forums and in riding groups, many see it as the dawn of a new chapter, one where tradition and technology coexist. The Revolution Max is more than an engine. It is a declaration that Harley intends to keep shaping the road for decades to come. Ending this countdown, it represents the future of reliability and performance, carrying the heritage forward into the 21st century with confidence. That's the full ride through Harley's most enduring engines. If you enjoyed this countdown, hit like, drop your own Harley story in the comments, and subscribe for more. Every ride has a story, and together we keep these legends alive. Stay tuned. Your next favorite engine might be coming soon.